morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you are when you're watching this. It's John here with DubbieDubbie, coming at you with some more information, in particular for our Dungeons and Dragons players out there. I know you're out there. I know you're watching the channel. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your subscriptions. Keep them coming here as well. I'll give you another reminder here at the end. But for now, I want to jump into the next bit of our topic, and I'm titling this one, A Big First Ask. Some of you out there might actually know what a big first ask is. It's a business term. It's one that I'm coining a little bit on my own, but it's a term that you guys are probably familiar with if you know anything about business. And unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, most of you here in the Dungeons and Dragons community don't know anything about business. If you did, you would have seen this happening with the new OGL 1 Fun, I'm calling it, because it's fun. For those not familiar with the story, I don't know who you would be within D&D, but let's say you're not familiar with the story that has blown into the normal mainstream media, which is a rare thing for Wizards of the Coast. Let's jump into what that story looks like today. First of all, we have an online gaming license that exists for Dungeons and Dragons. It doesn't really matter what the full details are of that. It's relatively short, and what it allows people to do in a nutshell is to use D&D properties in basically royalty-free. They can use those properties and actually make their own games and their own worlds. There are limits on it, as there would be with any contract, but the consensus of the community is that it's a pretty generous contract, and it's been one that's been in place for a long time. This has been in place for 2 decades or so. So it's a long contract, well-established, and the people who make the wonderful worlds of D&D that we enjoy and love with the characters that we enjoy and love, those creators have been operating under that online gaming license, or the OGL that we'll call it. And it's been version 1. It hasn't changed in that whole time. A couple weeks ago at this point, Wizards of the Coast actually came out and said, well, here's what we want to do. Because we're a big evil corporation, they didn't say that, but we know that's what they mean. We need to make money. And this current OGL, the OGL 1.0, isn't really working out for us. We're not making a lot of money from this. So we're going to change it. And we're going to change it into OGL 1.1, or 1 Fun, they should have called it. They missed out on that name, 1 Fun. I mean, that's fun. How can you not like it? What this would have done is taken the contract from about 700 words, and fairly easy to understand, to a 7,000-word behemoth. It's a much longer contract, and it essentially means that if you make enough money from the properties and the work that you've put in, the characters and the worlds that you've created under the D&D umbrella, then they would be entitled to some of the royalties from that. I believe it would have been at around 20 or 25% if your income was over $750,000, something along those lines. The details themselves don't matter. What's really important here is they were now going to get a cut of the work that you put in, without doing anything different themselves. Oh, and the cherry on top is that when this was released, it was expected that it could take effect as soon as about a month from when it was released. So no time to change your whole business strategy if that's what you're running off of. In short, everyone agreed this was a terrible decision. Over the last few days, because of community feedback and pushback towards this, or at least that's what you all believe so far, they decided to come out with this essentially leaked OGL 1.1 and say, hey, we hear you, we're sorry, we hear you. We're going to go back and revisit this. And then they had some kind of confusing messaging with it that I think threw a lot of people off, saying, we're not losing here or accepting defeat, but you guys get to win as a community, but we get to win too, because we win when you win, something along those lines. In short, you should take that for what it was, a message that doesn't mean a huge amount, but you should take some solace in the idea that they're going to come back and revisit this decision and come up with something that's better for the community, right? You should all think that, right? Okay. If you think that, really sorry to burst your bubble. You've never heard of a big first ask. Here's how this is going to work. I'm going to break it down for you a little bit, but first, you need to understand a couple of truths that I've covered in some past videos. These are the truths and facts. I can't say the word truths properly. If you thought I just said it properly, I didn't. I said truths with an F. So the truths and the facts. The 2 that I've gone over so far, which we're going to link up in a video up there in the corner, but for those watching on a TV or somewhere where you can't see that picture-in-picture, what this will also be is in the description of the video too. So check it out there. Please go check it out. That's my ask of you. There's really good information in there, and it kind of relies on these 2 truths being known by you within the community. Truth number 1, Wizards of the Coast is an evil corporation, and all evil corporations are focused on only one thing: making money. They need those dollar bills. That's all they want. That's all they will ever care about. If a company sits down and tells you, listen, I know all the companies care about money, and we certainly want to pay our people, but no, guys, we care about the community, and we care about the game we design. They're lying to you. They're lying to you for money, and you're falling for it. They're lying to you. They don't care about that. It doesn't mean they don't value those things. Evil corporations don't necessarily just do evil things. Did you know most evil things aren't actually profitable? They do the things that make them profit. They don't care if those are good things or evil things. They don't care who they hurt. They don't care who they help. What they care about is making money. Everything else is secondary. You need to lean into that and accept it. And I think most of you guys are already there. You know Wizards of the Coast is going to do everything they can to milk every extra cent out of you. That's what they're going to do. The second fact that I went over, that is a hard one for you guys to hear, but you need to accept this as truth as well, is the majority of Dungeons and Dragons players, the majority of Wizards of the Coast's customers for all their brands, and the majority of customers for just about every gaming company are addicts. You are addicted to the product you're consuming. And that's really important for you to know. Not because it's bad for you to be addicted to it, although it might be. That's sort of a moral question you'd want to go over with yourself. It's not because it's bad. It's because if you don't know that you're addicted, you need to know Wizards of the Coast knows that you're addicted. And if you're fighting a battle when you don't even know any of that about yourself, and they know that about you, they're going to keep doing moves like this to use it against you. So accept those two truths. Live within my frame for just a moment here, and accept the fact that the game that you are playing and that you love, you are addicted to. Okay? So we're there so far? Great. I'm glad to hear it. Welcome. Join me in an area where I'm an addict too, but I have a power you guys don't have, which is I know that I'm one, and so I can actually see some of this coming, knowing what would hurt me. Because that's the thing about addicts. When you know they're an addict, and you know that you're selling to addicts, you know that they're buying your products and services, you can go further and you can push further than you could for other customers. That's hard to hear, but they can do that for you. They can push harder and they can make you angrier and more scared than they can for other customers, because addicts are that much more in tune to how they get their fix. They need it. If that wasn't true, they wouldn't be addicts. If Wizards of the Coast could just come and change the OGL, and you didn't like those changes, and you said, since I don't like these changes, I'm just going to walk away, you probably weren't an addict, as long as you actually walk away. Now, if online you say that you're going to change it, you're going to change how this is working, you're going to make sure that the game isn't there, I'm going to leave. Well, I don't believe you. You're not going to leave, and I think Wizards of the Coast doesn't believe you either. That would be the response of an addict. You're making a threat that you can't deliver on. That's something addicts do, unfortunately. What that all can be summed up as is a new truth that you need to accept is the one thing that can be used against addicts that can't work against every consumer out there is fear. Fear is the most powerful persuasion that anyone can use in any situation. Did you know that every single element of politics is just fear? I don't care what political side you're on or if you're not on any political side. It's all fear-based. You're getting people uncomfortable with change or uncomfortable with the way things are today. That uncomfortable is expressed as a fear. You're afraid of the changes that are coming. You're afraid of not changing fast enough. You're afraid of the hurt that will happen because of this new bill or this new policy or whatever's happening or not happening. It's all fear-based, and that's how people paint that story. That will work on everyone, but the people it works on the best and the most efficiently are the people who are addicts. If you are addicted and particularly attached to the thing that you're focused on, to the game that you play, to the product you consume, then that persuasion, the best persuasion tool we have, fear, works extra hard on you. You need to know Wizards of the Coast knows you're an addict, and they know if they can get you afraid of something, they can make you do whatever they want to. There are very little limits on the costs that they can charge for things if they can first elicit fear in you, and then they can charge you money to fix that fear and to placate it. That's a hard thing to hear. At this moment, you might not be agreeing with that. I need to tell you you're wrong. That would be a common response for someone who is uncomfortable with the concept that they're an addict. It's normal to be in cognitive dissonance about that. It isn't a good idea to continue fighting against it. Accept what this is, and then we can move on how you can work your way out of this hole. So, how does this apply to the online gaming license? That's a great question. Here's how it applies to the OGL 1.5. I've got a little chart here, okay? Over here on the left, we have the OGL 1. This is where we are as the D&D community. We're here with all these upside down butts that are colored red. Oh no, those are hearts. They're not upside down butts. Well, it depends. If you like butts, they're butts. If you like hearts, they're hearts. That looks like a heart, right? Some doctor in the comments tell me that this looks like a heart. I'm pretty sure it does. And then you've got some flowers, because what I'm emphasizing here is the OGL 1, the one that you know and love today. This is in the good and pure love section of the graph. That's what it says here. So we're right here. OGL 1, I don't think anyone really has a complaint with the OGL 1. It's good. It's pure. It's made of just love. It's wonderful, and this is what we want. Wizards of the Coast, as we know, and as I just explained at the start of the video, they're way over here in Poopy Town, okay? All the way over in Poopy Town, they released the 1 Point Fund because they're an evil corporation, and what they said is, OGL 1, does that make us money? It doesn't make us money. Guys, it doesn't make us money. We gotta make money. How do we make money? We'll release 1 Point Fund. 1 Point Fund will make us money because we can just take money from other creators. We can just take it. Here, it's ours now. Don't give it to us, we'll sue you. We'll make even more money. Don't want to do that? Don't make our stuff. Let us make more stuff. We'll charge more for it. Cool. 1 Point Fund makes us money. It's fun for us, says WotC. Great. Maybe some people within Wizards of the Coast are still saying, you know, if they're down in middle management or something like that, they might be raising their hand saying, well, like, is it really that important that we make that amount of money? And then on the spot, as soon as that's out of their voice, it's just, you're fired. Get out of the room. I don't even know why you're here. What is it that important we make money? Don't you know what a company does? And they say, I don't know, we make products for people. No, you don't. You make money. That's all you make. That's all we care about. If the way to make money is by making good products, great. The way for us to make money is to change this contract and make sure that we rip everyone off, because that'll give us the most money. As far as I know, that's how the conversation went within WotC. Now, here's the thing. You guys won a battle. You all stamped your feet and you were loud and you yelled about everything and you said, hey, this is terrible. And I want to agree, reading through the contract, I think it would have been a terrible move. And so Wizards of the Coast said, oh, we're sorry. No, let's go back to the drawing table. We'll come up with some good consultation. And you guys so far are saying, yeah, we won. They're going to come back and consult. They're going to change it. Some of you are saying things like, now that we know they'll go in and take this, I just want to re-emphasize they're an evil corporation and you can't trust them. That's a good half point. That is a good half point, because that's one of those truths. They are out to make money. What you're all missing is, did you really think what they wanted was the 1 Point Fund? I want to be clear. If there had been no discussion around it, if you guys as a community had just not argued about it or anything like that, would they have put in 1 Point Fund as is? Of course they would have. It would have made them a ton of money. But they expected this kind of pushback. They did. How do I know? Why didn't they just put it in place? There was nothing stopping them from just putting it in place as soon as they had the draft. Why was it sitting in a draft? Do you think they were figuring out if they were allowed to do it? They already knew that when it was drafted. Of course they're allowed to do that. They're allowed to. They might have still been debating about whether it's the best move for them to make, but it would have been. It would have just made them a ton of money. No, what they wanted to see first is, if we have this leaked, if we have this released early as a draft, if we have this, the community has seen the thing that we totally didn't want them to see, because we didn't want them to be scared. We didn't want to elicit fear to see if we could persuade them into something else. If that hadn't have happened, they totally would have accepted it. But because it did happen by chance and by accident, if you guys want to live in that world for a little bit, cool. What that lets them do is say, now we get to bring in the community. We get to have all of these discussions, which maybe will happen, maybe won't, and we'll release a different 1.1. We'll release a different OGL. Maybe we won't even call it 1.1. We'll just call it the best path, or we'll call it winning, or something like that. And you guys will say as a community when they do that, that's great. We're now here in the middle. We all compromised. And Wizards of the Coast will say, that's right, we all get to win together. We all compromised, and we met here in the fair and balanced counteroffer that we negotiated together. And you'll think it's in the middle. And instead, that fair and balanced counter, that's going to be right up here next to 1 point fund. Oh, Wizards of the Coast gave up something. It's a little less poopy. Instead of just being a toilet full of diarrhea, maybe it's just a couple steaming logs there for you instead. But don't pretend it's going to end up here in the middle. You're all going to pretend that it was. You're going to pretend that you accomplished something as a community and you managed to trick Wizards of the Coast into negotiating. And the reason that happened is Wizards of the Coast never accepted to get 1 point fund. They never expected to get that out of the gate. That was what's called a big first ask. Here's a story and something that you should use in your own life anytime that you're applying for a job. Let's say that you're applying for a job and you know in the city in which you live, the country in which you live, based on the skills that you have and based on the size of the company, you know that what your services are worth is, let's say, $50,000 a year, just to pick a round number. It doesn't matter what the number is. You know that would be sort of fair. So you're expecting the company to pay you less, and you're expecting that you are going to ask for more, and you're hoping that you'll end up somewhere around $50,000. Should you go in when they're going to give you the job and they say, let's talk about salary, should you go in and say something like, I'd really like to have $50,000 a year. That's what would allow me to actually live here? No, don't do that. I'm not even going to let that pause to finish for an answer for you. If you do that, you're an idiot. You should go in with a big first ask. Once they're saying, let's talk about salary, you should be saying something like, I think based on my services, I'm worth 80 grand a year. You should go way above your ask. Why? Because there's a decent chance that they're not just going to completely shoot it down. If they give you $80,000, you'll say, wow, that's amazing, I'll take it, because you'll happily take that because that's so much more than you asked for. But they're not going to give you $80,000. They're going to counter offer somewhere. If you asked for $50,000, they will counter you down to 40. If you'd asked for $80,000, they will say, well, that's way over in poopy territory. How about $70,000? That's way more than you wanted. That's what you do. You start with a big first ask, and then you work down to the middle. That's what Wizards of the Coast did to you. How come they were able to do that to you? It's easy. The reason they could do that to you is because they knew already that you're an addict. And addicts don't negotiate. Addicts panic because they're experiencing fear that their fix is going to go away. Unfortunately, you guys have already lost this fight. I'm really sorry to say, they are going to renegotiate. They are going to give you better than the 1 point fund that they were originally offering, but it's not going to be better by much. You've already lost that. There are going to be negotiations. They are going to change this. They're not just going to sit and not make the money that they could. And at the end of the day, you guys will be encouraged to accept that offer, and you'll say things to yourself like, well, at least it wasn't as bad as it could have been. At least it wasn't as terrible as their first offer. And Wizards of the Coast will not be sitting there saying, we learned a valuable lesson to not do these kinds of decisions on our own. I'm so glad that everyone came out to help us make these decisions more level-headed. They won't. They'll be sitting there laughing, saying, can you believe they fell for that? They went for the first one and they thought that was the real offer, and they all just panicked and ran around with their arms shaking. So as soon as we could come in and say, yeah, well, we'll knock $100 off of that for you, that's fine, because we're good people. And then they came and they said, oh, yeah, you're so good. Thank you for revisiting this decision. That's what you guys are going to do. I'd rather not have that happen. I'd rather help you guys out with this. And the first step towards that is accepting this is where you're at now. This isn't a good place to be. You're not just a consumer in this place, you're being taken completely for a lark. So there's some help. I can offer you help to educate you toward this. The way that I can do that is if you could please like, subscribe, and comment on the video. Share this with your friends. Share this with everyone you know who is involved with D&D, because you're going to have some big changes coming with that. And the producers of the content that you enjoy are going to have some big changes coming through. And it's already too late for that piece. But it's not too late to help see if we can push this closer from the poopy zone to our good and pure love zone. It isn't going to be OGL 1. That's done. It's over. You guys already lost. But we can see if we can win the next one by being better educated on this and not being the Timmies that we're being today. Until then, I hope to see you at the next one here as well, and I'm looking forward digging a little bit deeper into this and seeing if we can uncover some better tricks for us getting better towards this year as well. Until then, this is John saying goodbye, and I'll sink away.